Hello, I'm Megan Jones, editor at Call Centre Health magazine, and I'm delighted to be joined by Doug Casterton to talk about the impact of scheduling on agent well-being, particularly scheduling-induced burnout. So, Doug, what is scheduling-induced burnout in the contact centre?
Yeah, so scheduling-induced burnout is a significant component of the broader sort of burnout syndrome. So it results directly from inappropriately or poorly managing your work schedules that create that chronic stress for agents. Actually, there's a definition from the World Health Organization as well, which is a syndrome resulting from a chronic stress in the workplace that has not been successfully managed, which like from the context of the scheduling perspective, is a primary contributor in contact centers. And in fact, I recently read, and I can't quote you where it was from, that something like 35 to 40% of burnout issues are as a result of scheduling issues. So it's quite a significant thing in the contact centers.
Wow, that really does sound like a big challenge. So, what's going wrong here and why does this happen?
Yeah, so the sort of things that sort of problematic scheduling patterns are often at the root of the issue. So things like back-to-back scheduling patterns, so late nights followed by immediate early mornings are a really sort of big contributor. Like they can disrupt the circadian rhythm as well. So really sort of very important to really make right work. Split shifts often fragment the day and make personal life planning nearly impossible. And by the way, some of the things I'm mentioning here, that it's not a one fit all purposes. Because so for some people, split shifts actually can be very good, but just generally speaking, they often can create stress from a shift scheduling perspective. Excessive workloads with high occupancy. So when this leaves agents with barely any time to catch a breath between calls, and often can also cause that sort of burnout. And then unpredictable last minute changes in your schedules. So these can disrupt not only what you're doing, but also create sort of personal commitments and then create that chronic stress type scenarios. So another element I would say is lack of schedule control. So, like when you implement a rigid scheduling system that doesn't account for individual preferences or personal circumstances, I think this is another important point. And also limited or limited input into the actual creation themselves. Um, Similar to the preference, but this results in a profound lack of autonomy on their work-life balance preferences. And then I'd also say as well, and they're micromanager of adherence as well. So sometimes this can also drive chronic stress and burnout type situations because people are just seeking for that number rather than actually doing it for the right customer outcomes.
And everything you just said, they're all really familiar terms in the contact center, things that are happening
Mm,
day in, day out. So clearly there's a lot to be said for them being mismanaged and having some really negative knock-on effects. So drilling into
absolutely.
that a bit deeper, then what are the knock-on effects of this on day-to-day life in the contact center when these elements are mismanaged?
Yeah, so every contact center will be slightly different because it depends upon your setup and how much how much of the scheduling is emphasizing or how far along you are, say, in your preference type scheduling or work-life balance type activities. But typically, burnout agents they both decrease in the confidence in their job. So this is going to directly impact the quality metrics of your contact center, whether that's customer experience or NPS and such like that. It can leave fatigue itself, which obviously is an outcome of burnout, can lead to higher average handle times. So as agents struggle to focus or recall information because of that type of situation, and also error rates as well. So maybe linked to the quality side of things, but it could lead to more repeat calls or customers' frustrations, which then can lead on to that extra call volume. And then I would say a last one, depending upon your business, you're likely also to experience higher escalation rates because exhausted agents can lack the energy or the patience to fully resolve the contacts, and therefore you're likely to see that increase as well.
So this can really spiral out of control really quickly and have some really serious
Yeah.
consequences. So if contact centers are leaders are sitting there thinking, gosh, I am experiencing this right now, what can they do about it?
Just before I come on to that, I think it's an important point that you just made there around the spiral. When in these types of situations where you have potentially increased repeat rates, increased AHT, and increased escalations, you're going to see more workload come in. So the higher the amount of chronic stress, the more workload that's created as a result of the failure demand, that because of the things that weren't done in the first place. And you get into this, what I call this death spiral. So what you end up doing is then going, okay, so how do we get ourselves back into a better service level position? So, well, let's work on maybe making our agents faster, which of course then has that effect of increased sickness and all these types of things. And I call it the death spiral of workforce planning, because you could start with a fairly good service level, but as that prep, only because it's being held up by agents that are being overworked, basically.
Mm.
Um, and as soon as and you're going to see that descending spiral level as you see those increased volumes and AHT and such like that, and ultimately people will take breaks. So even if their occupancy is high, they're going to need to take it eventually.
Mm.
Um, Sorry, I wanted to sort of touch on that because I think it's one which I've seen unfortunately in my career a few times, and the sooner you put these types of methods in place, the better that you can do. So proactive solutions that teams can implement. Um, so I always believe in sort of driven wellness programs wherever possible. So using workforce management analytics to identify those high risk scheduling patterns, such as frequent changes or insufficient rest periods or excessive overtime, is one element that you can do. Establishing those sort of clear thresholds for how you want to intensify your schedule and your rest periods based upon those historical data, and then tracking that wellness indicators such as increasing absence patterns, declining schedule adherence, or performance variability, that proactively identifies those types of high risk agents that might be either suffering burnout right now or are likely to suffer burnout in the future because of the scheduling method that you're currently deploying. Increase your schedule transparency and control. So developing things like and deploying things like self-service options that allow agents to self-select shifts within service level constraints. Implementing schedule notifications. I think actually, believe it or not, it's such a simple thing, but can make a big difference. So agents know what they can expect with their schedule and start to make the plans and personal commitments outside with confidence. Um, Creating a streamlined time off request system. I think if you haven't already got that, that's really important because that shows the real-time availability and it makes agents much easier for them to be able to self-select the holidays. And linked to the first one in the self-scheduling options, a shift swapping platform is also really valuable as well. So it allows those agents to trade off shifts whilst they're still maintaining the coverage requirements that you've got for your business. I think when it comes to designing wellness-centric schedules, I would say that you can create forward rotating schedules. So the morning, afternoon, and night that align with the natural body rhythms. I think that's important. Implementing mandatory minimum rest periods. You've got to do that anyway from a labor law perspective, but design it specifically not just from what you have to do from a regulation perspective, but also what do you want to provide to your people, because they'll have a trade-off in terms of business optimization versus agent wellness optimization. And I think that also creating that preferred schedule templates as well. So agents can select based upon their lifestyle needs, is also a really good step for a business to take.
Mm. So as much as all of this is a really serious challenge to be conscious of, there's
Mm,
a lot that can be done big and small to address it and really make sure that death spiral doesn't happen in your contact center.
mm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Um, and it's I think we've come a long way in workforce management to really improve this area, but there's still lots of opportunity. And I still think that when a business often hits that cost pressure, this is the sort of thing that gets put to the side. And actually, in fact, it's one of those metrics that, like I mentioned in that death spiral scenario, where you actually do need to look after, and it has real impacts on your business outcomes. So putting it to the side when cost becomes a pressure is actually self-defeating, because you're going to end up actually putting cost into your business as a result of not looking after the wellness of your for your agents.